All right, so our sugar and water are starting to boil. We want to kind of keep mixing it, make sure we get a boil all the way through. As you can see, we're very, very close to that. So once we're there, we're going to leave the heat on. You can maybe bump it down a notch or so once we already got this thing in a full-on boil. And we're going to add half of our starch in here. So this is a very, very large portion. And we're going to go ahead and try to put about half of it in there. And once we get half of it in there, we can leave our heat on, but probably at a lower setting. And we're going to try to do the best we can to mix it in with the sugar. So I'm leaving the heat on for a few more seconds, definitely scrubbing the bottom. We don't want stuff sticking and cooking. And then I'll take the heat off and we get this slurry mixture here. We kind of want it to be even. Want to see if we can get the tapioca mixed in with it, because the next step is a trickier step. Just after we get it mixed, we add the rest of our tapioca starch. So this is the fast part. And we do our best in the pot to get it all mixed. Now you will not be able to get it all mixed in there evenly. But you're gonna do the best you can, and you're gonna try to spread it and add kind of the tapioca into the middle of this dough that we're starting to make. Once you've got that laid out, it's been a few seconds, try to remove it from the heat because you're gonna work with it with your hands and we don't want it to be too hot for us. But we're gonna take it and put it right onto our mat. Keep in mind, this is a very, very big portion. And I'm gonna go ahead and do my best to scrape out the very little, but what happens now is we are on the clock because our boba is gonna wanna dry out immediately. And we wanna make sure that it doesn't before we get to work with it. So now this is as we were making dough before. What you're gonna wanna do is get the dough and start folding and pressing it. While you do that, try to collect the other dough and other tapioca. I like throwing it in the middle. And we're just gonna go ahead and, ooh, it is hot, hot, hot. Okay, is I like to fold and flatten. And when I get these little pieces here, I throw them in the middle, so I know that they're gonna get in there. And I fold and flatten. And then I've got some debris here, so I'll fold over that. Get those in here. And we're gonna keep doing this until it's all nice and even in one color. So right now, it's a very big batch. This one's gonna, this big one's hot, but I'll give you some good advice. If you have a smaller one, it will be a lot cooler. All right, I might actually need a little more tapioca starch. Oh, no, there we go. Okay, it's a little too sticky. Means I got it too wet. So I'm gonna push, flatten, and then fold. And I'm moving my hands very quickly because this one is very hot. But yours, if you have a much smaller portion, should be much, much cooler. But we want to work it fast because what's happening is it is drying out. Now, we're getting kind of close to it being one solid color. Now, if you make big batches like this, you got to realize you're going to have to fold it and flatten it a lot more to get it all blended in than if you had a smaller piece, because if it was a smaller piece, I'd already be done. So flatten and fold. So again, this is a very, very large piece. And the next step is where things get important. What you're gonna wanna do next is we're gonna wanna portion these things off. So I'll go ahead, knead this into a nice ball, and then we're gonna break it down into a bit of a tube. And this is gonna be our technique for making our boba pearls. So, something this big is going to not need that much of a portion. This is a triple portion, so something like that is where you wanna start. So what do you do with your extra? You've gotta go ahead and right away, put them in some saran wrap or a Ziploc bag, because if you don't, it will dry out and just be a big crumbly mess. So, get this thing all sorted and sealed for later. In fact, this piece is too big. What I'm gonna do is say, all right, think of a fairly large carrot. What I really need is about, I'd say this is a portion for your drink. So this piece, also putting it away. You won't have that much extra. All right, now we've got our right spot. And I like taking this one and stretching him out and realizing he's too big already. You can cut or piece him, but I'm gonna make both of these portions. So what we wanna do is stretch it out. So what you do is you press and bring your hands apart. But notice, as I do that, it's gonna shrink each time. So you're going to have to constantly be stretching and pulling. And sadly, my mat isn't long enough in one direction. So we get these things all stretched out so that it's the size of a pea, like a very small green pea. And then I can do the same for this guy. Because I want about this distance here, about the length of your arm. And then, once I have these guys down, I like to line them up like this. And you can just use your butter knife or the back edge, just something sharp. It doesn't have to be that sharp. But we're gonna go ahead and cut these into the size of boba pearls. If you keep them separated, that's good. Now keep in mind, they're going to double in size when you boil them. So if you're like, I want a boba ball about this big, it's gonna be twice as big. This is gonna be like a grape this big when you boil it. So we definitely wanna make it smaller. So you go through this line and we just, with the back of your knife here, we can cut them and make sure they separate. Oop, it's a big mistake I made right there. Keep them apart from each other and just, and to save you the time, now you have all these boba pearls, and you can do it a bunch of ways. You can do it with your fingers, you can put them in your hand, but you want to roll them into those nice little balls, because these do not make good pearls, flattened pillows. So we want to take them until they're a nice ball shape, and you get to do that with each and every one. When you're done with that, we go ahead and we take our tapioca powder. Once we have all our balls all nice and neatly and pretty made, and what you'll do is you'll sprinkle some tapioca powder on them, and you can roll them around in it, and what that does is it makes them not stick together. You can put that on your hand if you're finding these sticky, or if you're finding these too little rolls sticky, you can kind of do that with them as well, so they stop sticking already. Once that's done, they're all ready. You can go ahead and you can freeze them and serve them whenever you'd like, or you can boil them right away, as we have here, and eat them in about 30 minutes later. That's it.